You know, there are some losses that the world acknowledges. Funerals with flowers, condolence cards, people who say, "I'm so sorry for your loss." And then there are losses that happen in the shadows. Losses that no one believes. Losses that make people look at you like you've lost your mind instead of your child. This is a story about the second kind, about a woman who knew the truth in her bones but couldn't make anyone else see it, and about how the smallest pieces of evidence, a scrap of paper, a birthmark, an allergy to sesame seeds, can bring down an empire built on lies. It starts in a laundromat at 2 in the morning. That's where you find people who can't sleep, people running from something, people whose lives don't fit into the neat 9-to-5 world that everyone else inhabits. Adana Cole is folding someone else's laundry for $7 an hour, her hands moving automatically while her mind is somewhere else. Entirely. Somewhere 3 years in the past, in a hospital delivery room where everything went wrong. She's 27 years old now, but she looks older. Grief does that to you. It carves lines around your eyes and pulls at the corners of your mouth until your face tells the story even when your voice can't. She used to be a nurse at the public hospital, used to have dreams of becoming a nurse practitioner, maybe opening a clinic in an underserved neighborhood. Used to believe that the medical system, for all its flaws, was fundamentally designed to help people. She doesn't believe any of that anymore. A young mother comes in to pick up her toddler. Adana had been watching the little boy while his mother worked the night shift at a nearby restaurant. The woman thanks her, and Adana smiles. But there's something hollow in it. "Hold on to him tight," she says softly. I had one once, but I lost mine." The young mother doesn't know what to say to that, so she just nods and hurries out with her son. And Adana goes back to folding laundry, trying not to think about hospital rooms and the sound of a heart monitor that suddenly went flat. But she can't help thinking about it. She thinks about it every single day. 3 years ago, Adana went into labor. It was her first baby, and she was scared but excited. She'd done everything right. Prenatal vitamins, regular checkups, all the classes they recommend. She didn't have much money, but she had enough love for 10 children, and she couldn't wait to meet her daughter. The delivery was difficult. Hours of labor that seemed to go on forever, pain that made her scream until her voice was raw. And then, finally, the baby came. Adana heard a cry. She's sure of it. She'll swear on anything holy that she heard her daughter cry. Just once, a sharp wail that cut through the fog of exhaustion. And then the doctor's face changed, became very serious, very careful. "I'm sorry," he said. "The baby didn't make it." Adana remembers screaming, remembers trying to get up, trying to see, trying to hold her daughter just once, but a nurse was already carrying the baby away, wrapped in a blanket so Adana couldn't see her face. And in that split second before the nurse turned away, Adana saw something. Just a glimpse, but it burned itself into her memory so deeply that she sees it every time she closes her eyes. A birthmark on the baby's tiny wrist, shaped like a butterfly's wing. "Wait," she'd tried to say. "Wait, let me see her. Let me hold her. Please." But they gave her something, some medication to help her rest, and the room went fuzzy and distant. When she woke up hours later, she was alone. Her daughter was gone. They told her the baby had been stillborn, that sometimes these things just happen, that it wasn't her fault. But Adana knew what she'd heard, and she knew what she'd seen. That butterfly birthmark, that single cry. Her daughter had been alive. She was sure of it. She tried to tell them, the doctors, the nurses, the hospital administration. She filed complaints, demanded to see records, insisted something was wrong. But everywhere she turned, she hit walls. The death certificate said, stillborn. The hospital records said stillborn. The medical staff looked at her with pity and suggested grief counseling. Sometimes our minds play tricks on us when we're in trauma, a social worker told her gently. It's natural to want to believe your baby was alive, but you need to accept what happened so you can begin to heal. But Adana couldn't accept it, because there was one thing, one tiny, fragile thing that told her she wasn't crazy. An older nurse, one who'd been in the delivery room that night, had felt something was wrong too. She couldn't prove it, didn't have the authority to challenge the doctor's decisions. But she'd done something small, something that took courage. She'd written down the date, time, and room number on a scrap of paper and tucked it into Adana's file before it was officially closed. When Adana was going through her hospital records weeks later, trying to find anything that would support her story, she'd found that slip of paper, wrinkled, written in shaky handwriting. Room 347, 11:47 p.m., baby girl Cole. Nothing else. But it was something. Proof that someone else had noticed something wasn't right. For 3 years, Adana has carried that piece of paper in her wallet. It's worn now, the edges soft from being handled so many times. Sometimes she takes it out just to remind herself that she's not insane, that there was a witness, however silent, to whatever happened that night. She tried everything. She filed a lawsuit against the hospital, but without evidence, it was dismissed. She went to the police, but they said there was no indication of criminal activity. She contacted lawyers, journalists, advocacy groups, anyone who might listen. But a poor Black woman claiming her baby was stolen and replaced? That's not a story people want to believe. That's the kind of story that gets you labeled as mentally unstable, as someone who can't accept a tragic loss. So Adana lost her job. Too many absences. Too much erratic behavior. She lost her apartment. She lost most of her friends, who thought she needed to move on and let go. She ended up here, in this laundromat at 2 in the morning, folding other people's clothes and trying to survive. But she never lost that slip of paper, and she never stopped looking for her daughter. And then, 3 years after the worst night of her life, Adana sees something that changes everything. She's delivering clean laundry to an office building in the financial district. It's a legitimate business on the surface. Sato Holdings, a shipping and real estate conglomerate that owns half the city's waterfront. But Adana's been around long enough to recognize the signs of money that comes from places you don't ask about. There's an art exhibition in the lobby, some charity event for the company's public image. Adana is just trying to get her delivery signed for and get out, but as she's crossing the marble floor, she glances up at a television screen showing the company's promotional video. And she sees her. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, standing next to a man in an expensive suit. The man is Kenji Sato, the CEO. Adana recognizes him from billboards and business articles. He's young for such a powerful position, maybe in his early 30s, with the kind of face that's handsome but cold. The little girl is identified in the caption as Hana Sato, his daughter. But Adana barely registers any of that, because she's staring at the child's wrist, visible as she reaches up to hold her father's hand. A birthmark, shaped exactly like a butterfly's wing. The world tilts. Adana's vision narrows to that single point, that tiny mark that she's seen in her dreams every night for 3 years. She drops the laundry basket and stumbles forward, trying to get closer to the screen, trying to see better. "Ma'am, you need to move," someone says. A security guard, his hand on her arm. But she can't move. She's frozen, staring at that little girl with the butterfly mark, and her whole body is screaming that this is her daughter. This is her baby who is supposed to be dead, but is very clearly alive and living with one of the most powerful men in the city. "That's my daughter," Adana hears herself say. "That's my baby." The security guard's expression hardens. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "You don't understand. I need to see her. I need to—" Another guard appears, and they're escorting her out, not roughly but firmly, the way you handle someone who's disturbed but not violent. Adana tries to resist, tries to explain, but her words are tumbling over themselves and she knows how she must sound. Like a crazy woman making wild accusations about a child she's never met. They put her outside on the sidewalk, and someone, probably Kenji Sato's head of security, a man named Minho, comes out to make sure she leaves. "If you come back," Minho says quietly, "we'll have you arrested for harassment. Mr. Sato's daughter deserves to grow up without being frightened by strangers." Adana wants to scream that she's not a stranger, that she's that little girl's mother. But she looks at Minho's face and knows it won't make any difference. So she picks up her scattered laundry and walks away, her mind racing. That night, Adana doesn't sleep. She sits in her tiny rented room with that slip of paper from the nurse, with the date and time that match exactly when Hana Sato would have been born, and she makes a decision. If they took her daughter with paperwork and lies, she'll get her back with truth. However long it takes. However difficult it becomes. She'll find a way to prove that Hana is hers. She spends the next 2 weeks researching the Sato family. What she learns chills her. Kenji Sato inherited his position from his father, Masaru Sato, who built the company from nothing through a combination of legitimate business and connections to organized crime. They're powerful enough that regular laws don't seem to apply to them. Rich enough that problems disappear with the right amount of money in the right hands. And 3 years ago, right around the time Adana's daughter was born, Kenji Sato suddenly appeared at public events with a newborn baby girl. No pregnancy had been announced. No mother was ever mentioned. The official story was that the mother died in childbirth, and Kenji, devastated, chose to raise his daughter alone with the help of his family. It's a sympathetic story, one that made people admire Kenji for his dedication to fatherhood despite his loss. No one questioned it. Why would they? Rich men have babies all the time, and the details of their private lives are their own business. But Adana knows better now. She knows that her baby didn't die. She knows that somehow, through means she can't yet prove, her daughter was taken from her and given to a man who needed an heir, who needed the appearance of normalcy to soften his reputation. And she knows that the same system that protected Kenji Sato from whatever scandal he was involved in when he was younger, she finds hints of it in old gossip columns. Something carefully buried is the same system that stole her child. So Adana does something that would terrify most people. She applies for a job at the Sato estate, as a nanny. Using her nursing credentials and her experience with children, she crafts a resume that doesn't mention the hospital lawsuit or her instability. She presents herself as someone reliable, trustworthy, desperately in need of work. And somehow, miraculously, she gets an interview. The Sato mansion is everything she expected and nothing she was prepared for. It's cold, despite its luxury. All glass and steel and expensive art that looks like it was chosen by a decorator rather than someone who actually cares about beauty. Security cameras everywhere. Staff members who move silently and avoid eye contact. It feels less like a home and more like a fortress. Kenji Sato conducts the interview himself. He sits across from her in an office that probably costs more than Adana has earned in her entire life, and he looks through her resume with those cold, analytical eyes. "You have gaps in your employment history," he observes, "and according to this, you sued your previous hospital employer. Care to explain?" Adana has prepared for this. She keeps her voice steady. "I filed a complaint because I believed there were medical irregularities that needed to be addressed. The case was dismissed. I don't regret standing up for what I thought was right, even if I couldn't prove it. And you have debts. Financial difficulties." He's reading from something else now. A background check, probably. Someone in your position might be considered unstable. This is the moment. Adana could back down, could apologize, could present herself as someone desperate and grateful for any opportunity. but she thinks about that little girl with the butterfly birthmark, and she straightens her spine. Being unstable doesn't mean being dishonest, she says. I've had a difficult few years, but I'm good at what I do. I'm trained to care for children, and I do it because I believe every child deserves someone who will protect them and put their needs first. Kenji studies her for a long moment. Then, before he can respond, there's a commotion outside the office. The door bursts open and a little girl runs in. Hana, stumbling on her too long dress and heading straight for a sharp corner of the desk. Adana doesn't think. She moves on instinct, scooping Hana up before she can hurt herself, settling the child against her hip in the way that's natural to anyone who's spent time around toddlers. And without planning it, without even realizing she's doing it, Adana starts humming. A lullaby that her own grandmother used to sing, one she'd planned to sing to her daughter. Hana goes very still in her arms, and then, in a small voice that sounds like it hasn't been used in a long time, the little girl whispers, "Mommy?" The room goes absolutely silent. Kenji Sato's face has gone pale. He's staring at his daughter with an expression Adana can't quite read. Shock, certainly, but something else underneath it. Something that might be fear. She doesn't talk, he says quietly. She hasn't spoken in over a year. The doctors call it selective mutism. She understands everything, but she doesn't speak. She just did, Adana says. Her heart is pounding so hard she's surprised Hana can't feel it. She looks down at the little girl, who's gazing up at her with wide, dark eyes full of something that looks like recognition. Kenji stands up slowly. Put her down. She's fine where she is. Put her down. His voice has gone hard, and Adana remembers that this man is dangerous, that he's probably ordered people hurt for much less than defying him. So she sets Hana gently on the floor, and immediately the little girl reaches up, trying to be picked up again. There's a long moment where nobody moves. Then Kenji presses a button on his desk. Minho, come in here. The head of security appears, the same man who escorted Adana out of the office building weeks ago. He takes one look at the situation and his hand moves toward something under his jacket, but Kenji shakes his head. Ms. Cole is leaving. Wait, Adana says. Please, just let me. You'll do what? Kenji's eyes are like flint. Claim that my daughter is yours? Accuse me of something based on nothing but a child's random word? I could have you arrested right now for trespassing, for attempting to harm my daughter. I would never harm her. I'm trying to protect her. From what? From me? Kenji's voice is soft but deadly. You don't know anything about me or my family. You're a desperate woman who's invented a story to justify your own failures. And I should throw you out immediately. The word should hangs in the air. Adana catches it, holds onto it. But you're not going to, she says quietly. Because you heard what I heard. Your daughter called me mommy. And some part of you knows that doesn't happen randomly. Kenji Sato stares at her for what feels like an eternity. Behind him, Minho shifts uncomfortably, clearly wanting to remove Adana but waiting for orders. Finally, Kenji speaks. 2 weeks, trial period. You'll care for Hana under strict supervision. You'll live in the staff quarters. You'll have no contact with my daughter outside of designated hours. And if I see anything that suggests you're a threat to her safety, you'll be removed immediately and will pursue legal action. Do you understand? Adana can barely believe what she's hearing. Yes, I understand. And Ms. Cole? Kenji pulls out a piece of paper, writes something on it. This is a contract. It states that your relationship with Hana is purely professional, that you make no claims to her, legal or otherwise. Sign it. Adana reads the document. It's carefully worded to protect the Sato family from any future accusations she might make. Signing it feels like a betrayal of the truth, but not signing it means losing this chance entirely. She takes the pen and signs. Then she adds something at the bottom. I will care for Hana with integrity. I don't serve you. I work with you. Kenji reads it and something flickers across his face. Not quite a smile, but close. You have boundaries. I can respect that. He signs as well, making it official. And just like that, Adana is inside. Inside the fortress. Inside the home of the man who has her daughter. Now she just has to prove it. The first few days in the Sato mansion are like walking through a minefield blindfolded. Adana is given a small, sterile room in the staff quarters, nicer than anywhere she's lived in the past 3 years, but it feels like a cell. There are cameras everywhere, not just in the public areas, but in the hallways, the kitchen, even pointed at the doors. She's being watched constantly, every movement analyzed. Kenji Sato wasn't exaggerating about strict supervision. But Adana doesn't care about the cameras or the guards, or the way the other staff members avoid her like she's contaminated. She only cares about Hana. The little girl is quiet most of the time, communicating through gestures and the occasional sign language that someone taught her. She's well cared for in the physical sense. Clean clothes, good food, expensive toys. But there's something missing. A spark. A lightness that 3-year-olds should have. Hana moves through the mansion like a small ghost. Present but not really there. It breaks Adana's heart. Because she knows in every cell of her body that this is her daughter. And her daughter has been living in this cold, controlled environment for 3 years, surrounded by people who provide for her needs, but not her soul. Adana starts slowly. She's been assigned to supervise Hana during daytime hours while Kenji works, and the regular nanny has time off. It's a test, obviously. They're waiting for her to do something suspicious, something that confirms their belief that she's mentally unstable or dangerous. So she doesn't do anything dramatic. She just does what she knows how to do. She cares for a child who needs caring for. The first morning, she finds Hana sitting alone in her playroom, surrounded by expensive toys, but not playing with any of them. Adana sits down on the floor across from her, maintaining distance, and starts building a tower out of blocks. Not for Hana, just for herself, humming while she works. After about 10 minutes, Hana scoots closer, watches, then, tentatively, adds a block to Adana's tower. They don't speak. They don't need to. They just build together. And for the first time since Adana arrived, she sees something like peace on her daughter's face. The breakthrough comes with food. Adana has noticed that Hana is a picky eater. The mansion's chef prepares elaborate meals that the little girl barely touches. So Adana asks if she can prepare Hana's lunch herself. Nothing fancy, just simple, healthy food that a child might actually want to eat. The chef is insulted, but Kenji approves it. Probably curious to see what Adana will do. So Adana makes a bento box, the kind she used to prepare for herself when she was working long shifts at the hospital. Rice with vegetables cut into fun shapes, fruit, a little bit of protein. And she's careful, so careful, about what she includes. Because Adana has a mild sesame allergy, nothing life-threatening, but enough that she avoids sesame seeds because they make her break out in hives. And she has a strong instinct. Call it mother's intuition, call it hope, call it whatever you want, that Hana might have the same sensitivity. So she sets aside the sesame seeds that the kitchen usually sprinkles on rice, keeping them separate, watching. The mansion's chef doesn't notice. Or maybe he thinks Adana is being unnecessarily cautious. Either way, later that afternoon, he offers Hana a rice ball with sesame seeds as a snack. Hana eats it. And within 20 minutes, small red patches appear on her cheeks and neck. Adana spots it immediately, her nursing training kicking in. It's not severe, just a mild allergic reaction. But it's there. She calmly takes Hana to the bathroom, gives her some water, applies a cool cloth to the affected areas. She knows exactly what to do because she's been managing the same allergy in herself for years. "It's okay, sweetheart," she murmurs as she dabs at Hana's skin. "Just a little reaction. You're allergic to sesame seeds? Same as me. Your body doesn't like them very much." Minho appears in the doorway, alerted by one of the ever-present cameras. "What happened?" "Minor allergic reaction to sesame," Adana says calmly, professionally. "Nothing serious, but she should avoid sesame products going forward, just like I do." Minho's eyes narrow. "How did you know to check for that?" "Because I have the same allergy," Adana says. "And when I was preparing her lunch earlier, I noticed she has some of the same eating preferences I do. It's just pattern recognition." But they both know it's more than that. Shared allergies between a supposed stranger and a child? That's not coincidence. That's genetics. Minho doesn't say anything else, but Adana sees him make a note on his phone before he leaves. She knows this information is going straight to Kenji Sato. Good. Let him think about it. Let him start putting the pieces together. That night, Kenji reviews the security footage. He watches Adana handle the allergic reaction with the kind of calm competence that comes from experience. He watches her prepare Hana's lunch with unconscious care, automatically avoiding ingredients that might cause problems. He watches the way Hana gravitates toward Adana, how the little girl seems more animated, more present than she's been in months. And he remembers something he's tried very hard to forget. 3 years ago, when his father first brought baby Hana to him, Kenji had looked at the infant and thought, "She doesn't look like anyone in our family. Not me, not my father, not any of the Satos going back generations." She was beautiful, but she was different. He'd asked his father about it, and Masaru Sato had put a hand on his shoulder and said, "Love makes family, not blood. She's ours now. That's all that matters." It had sounded wise at the time, compassionate even, and Kenji had accepted it because he was young and still believed his father was fundamentally good, just ruthless in business. But now, watching this woman who shares an allergy with his daughter, who makes Hana speak for the first time in a year, who moves with such confident knowledge of how to care for her, now Kenji is starting to wonder if his father's wisdom was actually just a very elaborate lie. He doesn't want to believe it, because if Adana is telling the truth, if Hana really is her daughter, then that means Kenji has been complicit in something monstrous. It means the child he loves, the daughter he's trying to protect, was stolen from someone else. It means his entire life as a father is built on a crime. And more than that, it means his father used the same methods to help Kenji 3 years ago that he used to steal a baby. Kenji had been young and foolish and made a mistake. The details don't matter anymore, but it was bad enough that it could have destroyed his career, landed him in prison, ruined the family name. And his father had fixed it, made it disappear with the family's legal team, with carefully edited records, with money in the right hands and pressure applied in the right places. Kenji had been grateful at the time, relieved. He'd promised himself he'd never be so careless again, and he'd thrown himself into becoming the perfect heir, the perfect son, the perfect leader. He never asked himself what his father might want in return for that protection. Never considered that, once you accept help from a system built on lies and power, you become part of that system. Now he's looking at Adana Cole's file, the one his father had prepared, the same file that convinced Kenji not to trust her during the interview. It lists her as financially unstable, emotionally disturbed, someone with a history of making false accusations. There's even a note from a psychologist suggesting possible delusional disorder. And Kenji recognizes the format, the style of the language, the way the information is presented to make someone look as bad as possible while staying technically truthful. It's the same format as the files that were created to protect him 3 years ago. The same legal team. The same methodology. His father didn't just help Kenji cover up a mistake. He taught him that reality is whatever you can document, that truth is whatever you can make people believe. And now Kenji is staring at the evidence that this system has been used to destroy an innocent woman, to steal her child and gaslight her into thinking she was crazy. He should feel angry, should feel horrified, but mostly he just feels sick, because he knows what his father will say if confronted. I was protecting the family, protecting you. She's nobody. We're Satos. The rules don't apply to us the way they apply to other people. And the terrible thing is, part of Kenji still wants to believe that. Still wants to think that his father's actions, however extreme, come from a place of love. Still wants to pretend that Hana can be his daughter simply because he's been a father to her for 3 years. But the sesame allergy, the butterfly birthmark, the way Hana said "mommy" to a woman she'd never met before. The timing of everything. It's all too much to dismiss. Late that night, Kenji finds himself in the kitchen, making tea he doesn't really want, trying to think through the impossible situation he's in. And Adana appears in the doorway. She should be in her room. It's after hours. But she's there, looking tired and worried, and before Kenji can tell her to leave, she speaks. She had a nightmare, Adana says. Hana. I heard her crying through the monitor. I know I'm not supposed to go to her at night, but I couldn't just... I know, Kenji says. I heard her too. I was about to go up. They stand there awkwardly, two people who should be enemies but who are united in caring about the same child. Finally, Kenji gestures to the tea kettle. Would you like some? Adana hesitates, then nods. Thank you. They sit at the kitchen island. This expensive, sterile room that's never been used for anything as mundane as a midnight conversation between two exhausted people. And somehow, in the quiet of 2 a.m., they start to talk. Tell me about the lawsuit, Kenji says. The one against the hospital. Why do you care? Because I'm trying to understand. You seem competent, intelligent, not someone who would waste years of her life on a delusion. He looks at her directly. But if you're telling the truth about what happened to you, then that means... He stops. Can't quite finish the sentence. It means you've been lied to too, Adana says quietly. It means someone used the same system that probably protected you once to hurt me, and to take my daughter. Kenji flinches at that. She knows. Somehow, she's figured out that he's not innocent in how these systems work. I made a mistake when I was younger, he says carefully. My father helped me. He made it go away. I thought that was just what powerful families did. Protect their own. Protect their own from what? Consequences? Accountability? Adana's voice is gentle but firm. I hate your father didn't just protect you. He taught you that reality can be edited, that facts are negotiable if you have enough money and influence. And you think he used that same philosophy too? Kenji can't say it out loud. To take a black woman's baby and tell her she was crazy when she said it wasn't dead? Adana finishes for him. Yes, I think exactly that. The silence that follows is heavy. Finally, Kenji speaks again. What would you do? If you were in my position? If the child you loved, the child you'd raised as your own, might not be yours at all? I'd want to know the truth, Adana says immediately, no matter how much it hurt, because Hana deserves to know the truth. And I think... She pauses, choosing her words carefully. I think part of you already knows. You've known something was wrong for a while now. You just didn't want to admit it. Kenji doesn't answer, but he doesn't deny it either. The next morning, Masaru Sato requests a meeting with his son. It's formal, scheduled, which means it's about business. But when Kenji arrives at his father's private office, he realizes this is about something more dangerous than business. I've been reviewing the security footage, Masaru says without preamble. This woman you've hired, Adana Cole, she's becoming too familiar with Hana. She's a nanny. Familiarity is part of the job. Don't play games with me. Masaru's voice hardens. I know who she is. I know what she's claimed in the past. And I'm telling you that she needs to be removed. Today. Why? Kenji asks. If her claims have no merit, what difference does it make? Because perception matters. Because even ridiculous accusations can become problems if they're repeated enough times. Masaru leans forward. I had our legal team prepare something. Documentation of her mental instability, evidence that she's attempted to get close to Hana under false pretenses, grounds for a restraining order and possible criminal charges. Kenji takes the folder his father offers, opens it, and there it is. The same kind of manufactured reality that protected him 3 years ago, now being used to destroy Adana. Doctored psychological evaluations, selectively edited security footage that makes her actions look sinister. Even a fake report claiming she tried to leave the estate with Hana, which Kenji knows for a fact never happened. This isn't real, he says slowly. It's as real as it needs to be. Son, I've built our family's empire by understanding how the world actually works. Truth is what we can make people believe. Justice is what we can afford. And right now, we need to make people believe that this woman is a threat. What if she's not? The question comes out before Kenji can stop it. Masaru goes very still. What are you saying? I'm saying... Kenji chooses his words carefully. That I'm noticing things. Coincidences. Similarities between Adana and Hana that are hard to explain. Coincidences are just that. Coincidences. But there's something in his father's voice now. A warning. You're not suggesting that this woman's delusional story has any truth to it? I'm suggesting that I want to know the truth, however uncomfortable it might be. The truth, Masaru says coldly, is that Hana is your daughter. That you've raised her with love and dedication. That this family has given her everything a child could possibly need. Where she came from before she was ours doesn't matter. Before she was ours, Kenji repeats. That's an interesting way to phrase it. Because technically Hana has been mine since birth. Except she wasn't, was she? She came from somewhere. Someone. Don't do this, Masaru says. And for the first time, Kenji hears fear in his father's voice. Don't question this. Don't pull at this thread. You'll destroy everything I've built. Everything I've done to protect this family. To protect the family? Or to protect the family's reputation? Kenji stands up. Because I'm starting to understand that those might be two very different things. He leaves his father's office with the folder of false evidence against Adana, and instead of using it, he hides it in his private safe. Because he's decided something, he's going to find out the truth. The real truth. And whatever it costs him, his relationship with his father, his position in the family, his sense of himself as a good person, he's going to face it. But that night, everything falls apart faster than Kenji could have predicted. Because Masaru Sato doesn't wait for his son to come to the right conclusion. He acts. Kenji comes home to find Adana in her room, packing. She's moving quickly, her hands shaking, and there's a plane ticket on the bed. What are you doing? He demands. What does it look like? I'm leaving. Her voice is bitter. I tried. I really tried. But I can't stay here knowing that any moment your father could have me arrested on fake charges. I can't risk being separated from Hana permanently because I pushed too hard, too fast. He showed you the file. He had Minho deliver it to me, said it was a courtesy, showing me what he could do to me if I didn't leave voluntarily. Adana zips her bag closed. He's right. I can't fight this. I don't have the money, or the power, or the connections. I'm exactly what your father thinks I am. Nobody. You're Hana's mother, Kenji says. Adana looks up sharply. You believe me? I'm starting to, but I need time to prove it. To gather real evidence that even my father can't refute. You can't leave now. I'm not leaving, Adana interrupts. Not really. I'm going to look like I'm giving up. Going back to whatever life I can scrape together. But this? She pulls out the crumpled piece of paper. The one the nurse gave her 3 years ago. I'm keeping this. And I'm going to find more evidence. Hospital records, witnesses, anything that can prove what happened that night. Let me help you, Kenji says. I have resources. No. Adana's voice is firm. Because right now, you're still trying to protect yourself. You're still hoping there's a way for this to be true without you having to give anything up. And until you're ready to lose everything, your father's respect, your position, your idea of who you are, you can't really help me. She's right. And they both know it. So Kenji watches as Adana walks out of his house, out of Hana's life, carrying nothing but a small bag and that slip of paper that might be the key to everything. And upstairs, Hana is crying, her small hands making signs that no one is watching. Where's Mommy? Where's Mommy? Minho sees this on the security monitor. He's been watching all along, seeing things he wasn't supposed to see, knowing things he's been trained not to acknowledge. And for the first time in his career, he wonders if loyalty to the Sato family means being loyal to their lies. That night, Kenji sits alone in his office, looking at the folder his father created to destroy Adana. And he makes a decision. He's going to find the truth. Not to protect himself. Not to maintain the family's reputation, but because Hana deserves to know who she really is, and because if he's been complicit in stealing a child from her mother, then he needs to face that and make it right, whatever the cost. Tomorrow, he'll start investigating. He'll go through hospital records, he'll track down witnesses, he'll follow every lead until he understands exactly what his father did and how he did it. But tonight, he goes upstairs and sits by Hana's bed while she sleeps, and he whispers an apology to both her and the woman who should have been here instead of him. I'm sorry, he says. I'm so sorry, but I'm going to fix this. I promise. It's a promise he has no idea how to keep, but it's the only honest thing he's said in days. Kenji Sato doesn't sleep for 3 days. He spends every spare moment digging through records, making calls, accessing locked files. He moves carefully because his father has people watching him, but he can't stop seeing Adana's face when she left. Can't stop hearing Hana's silent crying. The first breakthrough comes from hospital employment records. He finds a nurse named Patricia Chen, who worked the night shift in the maternity ward. She retired abruptly 2 months after Adana's delivery with a generous severance package. People don't get paid that much to go away, unless they've seen something they shouldn't have. When Kenji shows up at her door, Patricia looks terrified. Please, she says, I don't know anything. I know you gave Adana Cole a piece of paper, Kenji says gently, with a date and time and room number. Why? Patricia's face crumples. The baby cried. Just once. I heard it. But Dr. Morrison said it was stillborn, and they took the baby away so fast and the mother was sedated so quickly, and I knew something wasn't right. But I'm just a nurse. Who's going to believe me over a doctor? So you left her a clue. I thought maybe if she had proof of the exact time and place, maybe someday she could find someone who would listen. Patricia returns with a file box. After I left the hospital, I kept copies of things. This is everything from that night. The duty roster, the room assignments, the order of deliveries. Kenji takes the box like it's made of gold. This is documentation from someone who is actually there. The second breakthrough requires breaking into the hospital's archives. Late one night, Kenji and a security expert slip into the storage facility looking for Dr. Morrison's personal notes. They find a box of files that was supposed to be destroyed. In those files, Kenji finds something that makes his blood run cold. A written complaint. Never officially filed, dated 2 days after Adana's delivery. Dr. Morrison had written, "I cannot in good conscience sign off on the death certificate for baby girl Cole. The infant showed clear signs of life. I was told by hospital administration that the family has made arrangements and that my signature is merely a formality. I refuse to participate in whatever this is." Doctor. Morrison died in a car accident 3 months later. The complaint was buried in his personal effects. The third piece of evidence is in his own home. Kenji finds hospital records showing that on the same night Adana delivered her baby, Masaru Sato checked a newborn infant into a private facility for routine care. No birth certificate. No mother listed. Just a baby who appeared and then, 2 days later, was released into Kenji's custody with all the paperwork suddenly in order. Kenji realizes this is how his father operates. He doesn't break laws in obvious ways. He finds people in positions of authority and makes it worth their while to bend the rules. He uses legitimate institutions to legitimize illegitimate actions. The same system that protected Kenji 3 years ago when he made his mistake. Kenji spends an entire day understanding that he's been complicit, that he's benefited from corruption, while telling himself he was just a businessman, just a father. But now he has to decide what to do about it. First, he finds Adana. She's back in her tiny apartment working double shifts at the laundromat. When Kenji knocks, she opens the door with a baseball bat in her hand. "It's just me," he says. "Just you is plenty of trouble." But she lets him in. Kenji sets down the boxes of evidence. For the next hour, they go through everything: the nurse's testimony, Dr. Morrison's complaint, the hospital records. "I got a DNA test," he says quietly. "I used hair samples. One from Hana, one from your jacket." Adana's hands shake as she reads the results. 99.9% probability of maternal relationship. She starts to cry. For 3 years, she's been told she was crazy, and now she has proof. "I believe you," Kenji says. "And I'm sorry." "What happens now?" "Now I'm going to give you something." He pulls out legal documents, custody papers, transferring all parental rights of Hana Sato to Adana Cole. "You signed these?" Adana whispers. "2 days ago, before I knew if you'd even agree to see me, because if I came offering to fix things only if you'd take me back, that would be manipulative. So I needed to do this first." "You're giving up your daughter." "I'm returning her to her mother," Kenji corrects. "Hana was never mine. I just loved her like she was." "Does Hana know?" "Not yet. I wanted you to decide how to tell her." Adana clutches the papers. "You really love her. Not possessively. You actually love her." "I do. Which is why I have to let her go." "That's going to cost you everything," Adana says. "I know. But I need to confront my father. Make him admit what he did." "I'm coming with you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. This is about me getting justice, so I'm coming." The Sato mansion has never felt more like a fortress. When they walk through the front door, security surrounds them. But Minho, the head of security, steps aside. "I'll make sure no one interrupts you." They find Masaru Sato behind his desk. He looks up, expression hardening. "I told you to handle this discreetly." "I did handle it, just not the way you wanted." Kenji sets down the boxes of evidence. This is everything: the nurse's testimony, Dr. Morrison's complaint, the hospital records, and the DNA test that proves Hana is Adana's biological daughter. Masaru doesn't look at the papers. "So what? I gave that child a good life. That woman would have raised her in poverty. We saved that child from a difficult life." "You stole her," Adana says. "You took my baby and told me she was dead. You destroyed my life, all so your family could have what you wanted." I did what was necessary to protect my family's future, just like I did when I protected my son 3 years ago. He looks at Kenji. You benefited from the same system. You're right, Kenji says. I did benefit, but the difference between us is that I'm willing to admit I was wrong. I'm willing to face the consequences now. There are no consequences. Every person who knew about this has been paid off or silenced. You think you can expose this? Truth is irrelevant when you don't have the power to make anyone listen to it. Maybe, but I don't need everyone to listen. I'm just leaving. I'm walking away from the company, from the family, from all of it. And I'm taking Hana to return her to the mother you stole her from. Masaru's face goes purple. If you do this, you're no longer my son. You'll get nothing. The Sato name will be closed to you forever. I know, and I'm okay with that. Masaru reaches for his phone, but Minho appears in the doorway. Sir, I'm afraid I can't let you make that call. I can't be part of this anymore. You're fired. I know, but I'm still not letting you make that call. Masaru looks around at the 3 people defying him and realizes he's lost control. Get out, he says finally. All of you, take the child. But understand this. I will not acknowledge any of this. And if any of you ever speak publicly, I will destroy you. We don't need you to acknowledge it, Adana says. We just need you to leave us alone. Upstairs, Hana is in her room. When Kenji and Adana walk in, the little girl runs to Adana and says, Mommy came back. Adana scoops her up, holding her daughter for the first time in 3 years. I'm so sorry I couldn't find you sooner, but I'm here now, and I'm never going to let anyone take you away from me again. Kenji watches them, and he feels something break open in his chest. What happens now? Now I take her home, and I start being her mother. And me? Do I ever get to see her again? Adana is quiet for a long moment. You gave me back my daughter. You admitted the truth, even though it cost you everything. That matters. But you were also part of the system that hurt me, and I need time to figure out if I can ever really trust you. So for now, no. Maybe someday. But not now. It hurts, but Kenji nods. Then I'll wait. However long it takes. She carries Hana out of the mansion, past the security guards who don't try to stop them, and Kenji lets them go. Because that's what love looks like when it's real. It looks like doing what's right, even when it destroys you. 3 months later, Adana has moved to a slightly better apartment. She's working at a community clinic now, helping people who can't afford fancy hospitals. And every night, she tucks her daughter into bed. Hana is talking more now. She doesn't ask about Kenji much, but sometimes she'll see something and get a sad, confused look. Do you miss him? Adana asks one night. Hana nods. He was nice to me, but he's not daddy anymore? He loved you very much, but he's not your daddy. I'm your mommy. Maybe someday you'll have a daddy, but for now it's just us. Is that okay? Hana nods. That's okay. There's a knock at the door. Minho stands there with an envelope. From Kenji. He asked me to deliver it. Inside is a check for a significant amount along with a note. Not payment, just acknowledgement that my family stole 3 years from you. This doesn't make up for that. But Hana deserves security. K. There's also a small wooden box with letters, dozens of them, written to Hana over the past 3 months. Letters explaining what happened, apologizing, telling her he loves her. He writes one every week, Minho says. He wants her to know that his love for her was real. Adana makes a decision. Tell him that I appreciate this. That maybe, in a year or 2, when she's old enough to understand more, we can talk about letting him see her. Not as her father, but as someone who did the right thing once he learned the truth. I'll tell him. After Minho leaves, Adana stores the letters away for the future when Hana will have questions. Because the truth is complicated. Kenji was part of a system that hurt her. But he was also the person who broke that system from the inside, who gave up everything to make things right. He's not a hero, but he's not a villain either. He's just a man who made mistakes and then chose to do better. And that's worth something. Maybe not forgiveness? Not yet. But the possibility that people can change if they're willing to pay the price. In a small apartment where the afternoon light is warm and golden, a mother holds her daughter. Adana kisses Hana's forehead. We're going to be okay. Just us. We're going to be okay. And for the first time in 3 years, she actually believes it. Truth often doesn't arrive in dramatic revelations, but in tiny traces. A nurse's hurried note, a birthmark on a wrist, a little girl running toward the person she knows is her mother. Love and justice only truly matter when the person holding power admits their part in the wrong, when they're willing to release their claim, so that the one who was wronged can finally stand straight with the truth. Dear friends, if you were in Kenji's position, someone who once benefited from a system that covered up mistakes, would you have the courage to turn around and set things right? If you were in Adana's position, labeled as unstable, doubted for years, would you still have the strength to hold on to your truth? If this story touched you, please share. A time when you witnessed someone brave enough to stand with the truth even when they had to face their entire family or the system. Or a time when kindness melted someone who had been so cold and rigid. Perhaps your story will bring comfort to someone out there who's trying to hold on to their small piece of truth so they won't be forgotten.